Prabhu. I will be handling social science for class 8. Today let's start with the first chapter of this academic year of social science, that is sources. Students, before we learn what are sources, let's recollect what we have studied in the previous classes. What is history? If you want me to explain you in an easier way, then today is tomorrow's history. But if you want me to give you a definition of history, history is the systematic study of the past events which has already happened. The systematic study of the past event is called as history. And they also say no source, no history. Why? Let me give you an example. I want to know the total number of infected people with COVID-19 in the month of March and April. I want to know the total number of people infected with it in the month of March and April. Can I give you a random number? Say 5,000 or 10,000. Can I tell you like that? No. I need some source or I need some evidence. It may be old newspapers. It may be old records of the news channels. Then it may be through my phone, through internet. I can search, right? So these are the sources in my example. Alright. Historians are like advocates, the lawyers, how they keep up their case, followed with evidences, the evidences regarding their case. The same way, even historians collect the sources, examine it very critically, analyze it, and then write history. Without the source or without the evidence, it's not possible to write history, or give random information without evidences, it's not possible. But sometimes when historians don't have direct source, they tend to assume. I'll give you an example. Rahul travelled from Karkala to Mumbai 20 years back, not in bus. So I have three sources here, three informations here. Rest of the informations I'm not having, that is, first, Rahul's travel record. Where did he travel? From Karkala to Mumbai. Second one, how many years back it was? It was 20 years back. Third information is the transportation which he did not use, that is bus. So now the question is, how did Rahul travel? Alright, not in bus. We have the information that he did not travel in bus. So let me do the assumptions like historians, okay. First one, he might have walked. Second one, maybe through bullock cart. Third one, maybe in train. Fourth, in flight. So I have four assumptions over here. Now the question is, how long it's been he travelled? How many years back this had happened? 20 years back. So what historians will think is, 20 years back the transportation facilities were good. If it was some 800 years back or 600 years back, we could have assumed that he might have walked or used bullock cart. But it was just recently, 20 years back. So these two assumptions get cancelled and he might have used the train or flight. It depends on his financial situation that historians will further think. I just gave you an example like how historians critically analyze, assume things if they don't have direct source. Students, during ancient times or during the time when human life started existing on this earth, humans never sat idle. They kept doing one or the other activity to give good facilities for themselves, like making weapons with the help of stone, wood, or even bones. After a few years, when the years went by, they started learning little more. They started making pots to fetch water. They started making baskets with the help of dried leaves, things what they get from cut down trees and do something. After a few years went by, they started learning more and more. They started carving on the inside the cave. After years went by, they started doing some temples, inscriptions inside. They started learning more and more. All these years, the things what they used and which is left till now or remained till now, those things are called as sources. So the agricultural tools which was used and left by the people earlier, and the coins or inscriptions or even temples, old monuments, all these things are considered as sources by historians to analyze and learn more about it and write history. Now let's learn the types of sources. Students, there are two types of sources, that is literary source and archaeological sources. There are two types of sources, that is literary sources and archaeological sources. Under literary source again there are two types, that is written literature and oral literature. Written literature and oral literature. Again under written literature you have native literature and foreign literature. Then in archaeological sources you have four types, that is inscriptions, coins, monuments and other ruins. About archaeological sources we will learn later. Now let's learn about the literary source. Students, now let's learn about the literary sources. There are two types of literary sources which I have already told you. One is written literature, one is oral literature. Now let's learn what is written literature. Students, written literature, the name itself says it's already written. So it's more elaborative. It explains you more about the past. It's already written. So we needn't find some evidences. That itself is an evidence. It tells you more about then aspect of life of olden people. Then in the sense, the things which were earlier, like how they used to live, their interest regarding maybe music or maybe their art. Many things can be known. Students, there are two types of written literature, that is native literature and foreign literature. Native literature means the literature which is written by Indians in their native language, maybe Prakrit, Sanskrit, Kannada, Telugu, Gujarati, Marathi, many other languages. Few examples if you want me to give, that is Kautilya's Arthashastra, Vishakhadatta's Mudra Rakshasa, Kalana's Rajtarangini, Pampa's Vikramarjuna Vijaya. These I can name under native literature. Foreign literature. Students, many of the foreigners used to come India, visit, observe, see, experience things, and they used to write in their works. They used to come as travelers, observers, businessmen, officials, ambassadors, missionaries. They used to come this way, observe things and write it in their book. If you want me to give you an example for foreign literature, I can give you Megasthenes' India, Huan Sang Siyuki, Ptolemy's Geography, and Babur's Tusk-e-Babri. There are many foreign literature I can name under it. Now let's learn about oral literature. Oral literature is second type of literary sources. Alright, oral literature means it's more like folk songs, folk stories, ballads, which is small stories regarding some personalities, which passes from person to person. For example, I can give, your grandmother might have told you few stories. You haven't seen that, but your grandmother tells you. That story might have told to her by her grandmother or her great grandmother. This way, the story passes from generation to generation. Alright, for example, if you have been to Chitradurga Fort, you will find a guide over there. You haven't seen Oberoi moving here and there, right? He will tell you, this is the place where Oberoi used to have her meal. This is the place where she used to fetch water from. This is the place where she, pulled enemies out. All the story, you haven't seen her, right? But these are the stories which has passed from generation to generation. This is oral literature. Students, now let's learn the second type of sources, that is archaeological sources. First type is literary sources, second one is archaeological sources. Archaeological sources are the sources available not only on the surface of the earth, but also it is deep inside, it is deep hidden within the depth of the earth. So we have a particular method to dig inside and extract the evidences or extract those things which are remained after usage of the people during those times. There is a scientific method to dig in and remove it out or extract it out. That scientific method is called as excavation. That scientific method of digging in and extracting the evidences out is called as excavation. I can give you an example for this. Harappan civilization came into light with the help of excavation, with the help of this scientific method. Deep inside the earth, they found bangles used those times, seals, coins, ruins of the temples. All these things, they are considered as sources to understand about them. The main reason for excavation is to understand the life, to understand how they lived during those times. Students, now let's learn about the types of archaeological sources. There are 4 types of archaeological sources. Those are inscriptions, coins, monuments and other ruins. We will learn one by one. First, let's know about inscriptions. What are inscriptions? Inscriptions are engraved writings. What does engraved writing mean? Writings on the flat surface. Engraved writings are writings on the flat surface. The surface might be of stones, rocks, ivory, terracotta, etc. Any surface it might be. The main reason for usage of all these items or one of these items are it lasts longer. Those inscriptions which was done in olden days, if it has remained or left till now, imagine how beautifully they might have inscripted it. I can give you beautiful examples like Ashoka's inscriptions and Samudragupta's Allahabad pillar inscriptions. It has remained even till now. It is more reliable. Why is it called reliable, students? Archaeological source we can rely upon or depend upon to learn about the event which was old. That particular event we can learn more, we can depend upon. Why is it called reliable? Because archaeological sources have direct contact or direct relationship with the event. Understand? Okay. Brahmi script. Most of the inscriptions are in Brahmi script and different languages. Most of those inscriptions you can find in Prakrit languages. Other than that, maybe Sanskrit, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, all these languages inscriptions in southern part of India you can find. Then aspects. Archaeological sources portrays more about life aspects of those people. Maybe it's religious aspects or educational or political aspects which reflects more with the help of inscriptions. Students, now let's know about the second type of archaeological source, that is coins. Students, though the coins are very small thing, but it can help us to learn a lot of important things about the people who have used them. Maybe the geographical extent of their territory, what they have occupied of that particular kingdom, we can know that. Language which they used, which language was the kingdom using. Then the aspects of life, maybe religious aspects, educational aspects, political aspects, many things can be known. For example, Samudragupta. Samudragupta's coins, 7 different gold coins, tells you many things about him. You can find him playing veene. Veene is one of the instrument of music. What does it tell us? It tells us that how beautifully, how he loved music and how he conducted Ashwamedha Yaga. Students, if they succeed in carving all these stories in such small thing, what kind of metal technology they might have. So coins help us to know a lot number of important things of those times because they have used that particular coin. Now let's learn about the third type of archaeological source, that are monuments. Students, monuments play as the major source or main evidence for knowing or studying of that particular event. We can know about the knowledge they pursued, maybe regarding the science or technology. Science and technology, I can give you an example. Vijaypura's Whispering Gol Gumbaz, it tells you the blend of science and technology and how mature they were with this particular knowledge, that is science and technology. For art, I can give you a beautiful example of Ajanta and Ellora caves. If you have seen or heard about it, you can know how they had mastery over painting, art and sculpture. And for architecture, I can give you an example of Madrasa, which was built by Muhammad Gawan in Bidar. Remember, you have studied this in 7th standard in Bahmani Sultan. It was the most prominent monument during those time. It was 242 feet wide, 222 feet long, 56 feet height and 3-storied building. It was the most prominent monument during Bahmani Sultans. Students, with the help of monuments, we can know the contemporary aspects of them. Maybe religious, maybe the creativity, what they pursued, the knowledge regarding science and technology and many different things. Students, now let's learn about the fourth type of archaeological sources, that is other ruins. The remains like bangles, seals, beads, maybe jewelry, it tells us more about them, like the different kind of carved kadas, bangles and the bindis or the jewelry. All these evidences tells us more about their socio-cultural life, socio-religious life, about their food habits and even their business, what they were in. Many things can be known with the help of other ruins. There is one particular method that is called as carbon dating method, which is only used on the biological fossils. Biological fossils means maybe the remains of dead human or dead animals or dead birds or even on trees. This method is only used on the biological fossils. With the help of this particular method, we can know how old is this particular fossil, how old these people lived. Understand? Even if the fossil is 10,000 years ago, it can be identified how old it is with the help of this method, that is carbon dating method.